Welcome back, everybody, for another episode at the Feminine Space podcast. In this series, we have Cindy Stone with us again, and now this time on this episode, we're going to carry on the topic from last week, which was creativity and how do we allow ourselves to imagine and flow with all the creation that's within us that wants to be expressed. And right now, I'm going to be speaking with Cindy about how do we actually create? How do we put those ideas of the formlessness into steps and form and something that could be, even valuable for others and not just ourselves. So let's give this topic a try, because I know that Cindy, this must be something that you probably are going through every single day with your work, with your books, and all your clients. So what are your thoughts on this switching of gears? So taking something that is just an idea in our head or even many ideas into something that is actually taking a physical form or something manifested and materialistic in our life here.
Hi, Natty and everybody. This, again, is one of my favorite topics and very close to my heart. Finding those ideas and having them come into us in however that happens in this magical way, and then taking those ideas and bringing them to life. And, some people, they have one idea at a time and it's all very clear. And they can decide, okay, this is an idea and I'm going to run with it. And there's a certain kind of clarity to it and ease. And other people, like myself, get overwhelmed with ideas. I have 1,000 ideas per second. And then I have a process that I've talked to other creative people who get overwhelmed by having so many ideas. I have a process that I use that really works for me, and I call it throwing the spaghetti on the wall and seeing what sticks. And so when I have a lot of ideas, I kind of run and try out each one a little bit, and then I see which idea really resonates with me and which idea I feel so connected to at this moment that I can run with it for a while, particularly a book. I know that I'm going to be particularly with a novel, you're going to be with a novel from 1 to 10 years. So the one that I just wrote, I was with it for 6 years, and now I'm going to be with it again, talking about it. So you're with these ideas for a long time, so you want to have one that you really resonate with. And and I have tons of ideas for books, so I'll try at the same time of this one. I had about 4 other ideas for books that I kind of tried out a bit. And then, no, that one just wasn't really engaging me as much, and that one. And I put them in a file, along with all of my other ideas that I'm not currently engaged with. And sometimes I look back, and then there's an idea that now I'm ready for. Because ideas come to you. They're ready for you, but you have to be ready for it as well. And sometimes I'm just not ready for an idea. I haven't done the thinking about it, or I'm not mature enough, or, for whatever reason, I don't have the wisdom to handle this idea. I have to wait until I can grow into it. So keeping a file of ideas is a really good idea. And when you bring these ideas to life and you start to work on them, that's when the whole formlessness begins to shift into a new way, a new dimension of taking the formless into the form.
And I really love one thing that you actually didn't mention, but it's throughout the whole process that you just explained, which is you take each idea without judging them, and you allow them to be there, and you explore them each without criticizing, oh, is this possible? You give it a try first, and you allow them first to come to life and see how well they grow. It's almost like planting seeds and finding out, okay, which one should I actually plant into the garden, right? And which little seedling should I bring outside and allow them to have more space to grow. It really sounds like first you actually allow these ideas to have significance or have value to you in itself. And then you give it a bit of energy, nurture them without any judgment of, what is possible, what is not, what could be, what couldn't be. You just let it grow by giving it each some energy. And then you figure out, okay, from that, the feedback from what is actually created, or what the feelings, like, I guess, inside in your gut. Okay, which one feels right? Which one feels light? Or which one feels heavy and I should let go? And then you kind of come to that conclusion, okay, maybe I should give this one a go because it just feels right.
Well, it's funny that you should say that, because you're just stimulating all kinds of ideas with me. I really believe that each idea has its own kind of intrinsic value and its own intrinsic energy and life. So I see them as little lights, and or like little children. And so when you have many children in front of you, you don't say, oh, well, that one has more value than that one. You just go, wow, each of these little lives are so rich, and they're going to be all so different. And then you begin to relate to each idea as its own energy in its own right. And you might be able to resonate, say, with one child because you share a love of, say, art. And then another child you might resonate with in another moment because you share a love of cooking. And so each child will bring something different to you, just as each idea will bring something different to you. And some are more challenging than others. Some children challenge everything you say because they just think that way. And it makes you a deeper, stronger person because you have to think a little bit more deeply with that person, or a little bit more deeply with that idea, because that idea challenges you in ways you didn't imagine. So that's how I think about these ideas. Or they're like a lot of little rescued puppies. They come to you, and each little rescued puppy has their own intrinsic value. And you just want to see how you resonate with them and what you can bring out in that idea.
That's really beautiful, because it sounds more like you're building a relationship, or it's an interplay between that idea and you. It's this relationship that you're forming and nurturing, versus sometimes when someone has a lot of ideas, you can get very overwhelmed, not just in, oh, which one should I choose and how do I go about them all, but also the expectation that whatever I try, it has to work, or it has to be successful, or it has to be meaningful or valuable in the end. But it sounds like your approach takes that away, takes this, self-criticism, the critical voice, and all these expectations that actually hold us back from being creative and actually bringing these ideas to life. So I really, really like that aspect, because I'm sure that a lot of us do struggle with this in particular, because the more ideas we have, the more we feel like, oh, I need to do it correctly. But really, is there a correct way, right?
I think it's engaging in that dialogue between the idea, or that conversation with the idea. If you're writing a book, then you're conversing and you're learning about the characters. They have their own energy. It's the craziest thing. It may be coming from your mind and your fingertips, but they have their own life, and you need to learn how to talk to them. And I find that every idea is the same. So when I have a business idea, because I've had many have gone by the wayside. I just haven't put the energy into them, and they could have been great. But the idea ended up belonging to somebody else, and they did it better, or they put the energy into it to make it successful. But even that, when you're engaging in a business idea, you're creating a conversation, a dialogue, a relationship with this idea. Okay, what are you going to do now? How are you going to develop this? How are you going to nurture this? And that's how the ideas become a form, rather than just an idea that remains in your mind, or remains, in a book, with a book of ideas, or a file on your computer. So I do like the idea that you look at the ideas without judgment, but I also like to not waste ideas, that I feel kind of blessed with each idea that comes to me, and I feel like I need to honor at least one idea at a time to bring it to fruition. And with that comes a responsibility to learn as much craft as you can, because there's ideas, and then there's bringing it into form, and form requires craft. Whether you're a writer, or you're a painter, or you're a business owner, or you're an engineer, or you're a mathematician, all of these have a certain kind of craft or form that you need to learn. And the more you know about that, then the deeper your creativity can go with your idea.
Yeah. I feel that everything that you're saying relates to even very specific and technical jobs out there. For example, I've heard that at Google, the majority of their successful applications and programs actually come from this 20% of their employees' time, which is completely free, which means in this space, they are able to try and test out and play around with any ideas that they might have inside, but which may not be actually, from the top down given as a project, right? But in this space, that's when you give the time and the allowance and the energy in, like you say, this craft in order to slowly build step by step, just a little seedling of an idea into something that's even greater, and perhaps something that's even the most valuable at a company. So I gotta say that although playing and listening and giving a try all these ideas in our heads is a wonderful thing, we also need to set aside almost like a structure. We need to have a great interplay between setting a structure and having a very focused form. May it be a time that we set aside each day to write or to create or whatever it is, and the other part of us, which is all these rampant ideas running wild. So I think that it's really great if you struggle with, for example, finishing a project, or maybe on the other end of the spectrum, you're someone who has no clue how to focus these ideas, then perhaps for some of you, it's just to play, just to have some time off, just to play and to see what happens. And then maybe for some other people, maybe it's time set aside for that specific project, which you feel is already kind of bubbling inside, and it just needs more time and that craft, like you mentioned, Cindy. And for me, it's really interesting because I also have these idea overload, just like you do. But what I really like to do is actually sit down at the beginning of the day or throughout the day and really feel, okay, what is the next step? Or what do I feel like I'm ready to do now? Like you say, it's like this dialogue. And sometimes we're ready for confrontation. Sometimes we're ready for a really serious conversation, but sometimes we're not, right? And so sometimes you actually got to feel, okay, what state am I in, and which projects or which ideas am I best in the mood or state to actually contribute to? And through that, you might end up actually intuitively working on the right things, but you do need to set time aside in order to fully nurture all these ideas into form and into creation. So that's kind of like my own little, version of how to go about creating both a structure so that I have that dedicated time and energy so that I work on it, but also the intuitive openness to listen and be like, okay, what's right now, and to let that guide me and to fill that space up with what's needed then.
You're making me think about how I now, at this stage, have the belief in myself to run with my ideas. But there was a time when I didn't. And there was a time when I would get stopped. And I'd have ideas, but I didn't believe in myself enough to make them happen, to study the craft enough so that I could make a very lovely form that might resonate with other people and help them in their lives. And something that a famous American author said that changed my life. And so I repeat it as often as possible because it's probably one of the most deeply meaningful things I ever heard for myself in terms of finding a way to move past my doubts. And that was from John Updike. And he said in an interview about writing that when he was in university and he was in, the high level of all the writers and in creative writing and 20th century literature, he said there were so many people that were better writers than he was and that he could ever be. But he was the only one of them that became a writer because he was stupid enough to carry on and do the writing and make the books. And I thought, it made such a difference to me. I thought in that moment, oh my God, I don't have to be the best writer. I don't have to be a great writer even. I just have to be the one that does it. And that I can do. And that's exactly how I started, was I stopped worrying about the quality. I worried about the quality, and I worked at my craft, and I still do. I work hard at it so that I can get better and better at it. But I didn't let it stop me. I thought I can just learn this. I can learn the craft. I can learn enough that I need to know in order to achieve my dream.
Yeah. This whole conversation just makes me realize that, like everything else in life, is really, we need a balance, don't we? And
Yes.
we need also not only patience and acceptance with ourselves, but also tuning into what are we ready for? And do we allow ourselves to go forward with an idea? And do we, respect ourselves and our ideas enough to allow it to come to fruition and allow it to actually become a book? Because we need to give ourselves that permission in order for that creation to come about. So today I would love to share with you a free resource, and I'm going to be creating a PDF guide that will help you get in touch with yourself and make sure that the ideas that you have actually stem from you, and it's not something that's inspired by the outside, so you can meet someone's expectation, or it's in order to please a certain someone. So that internal connection. And then the second one is to actually trust in that there could be life in this, and to allow yourself to have your own permission to go about and create it, and how to actually bring that little structure in so you can allow yourself that time and that space and that energy to always nurture and grow it bit by bit every day. So check that out at femininespace.com / I'm gonna pause here. What do you think? Dreams? No. Fruition? No.
Bringing it all to life.
Bringing it all.
Is that too long?
Yes, that is too long. I like to use one word.
Okay.
Let's see.
Big ideas?
Oh, cool. Okay, yeah. / big ideas. That's perfect. So head over there for that and just download it, and use it as a guide, use it as a tool whenever you're overwhelmed by an idea or you feel like, okay, it's time to get creative. So any last thoughts, Katie, before we wrap this episode up?
Well, I think that let's all just open ourselves out, allow ourselves to expand into the world, and let those ideas just come into us in a natural, organic way.
Yeah. Pretty much flowing with what's already here, both on the outside and within. So that's perfect. And thanks for being here again, Cindy. And let's not forget to flow with self-love and ignite your natural power. And see you next week for another episode with Cindy. So until then.
Bye, everybody.